Hello, my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. So I haven't filmed in a couple of weeks. Some things came up, I took a few days off, and I really missed the window to do a June wrap-up. But I still want to talk about the books that I read in June because there's some amazing ones. And I have been loving these recent read videos that people are doing lately. Instead of wrap-ups, they talk about like 5 to 10 books at a time. I just think that's really fun and allows you to have more time to talk about the books more in depth. So I think I'm going to start doing those. Maybe just try it for this month and see how it goes. So I did read 14 books in June, and it just worked out that 7 were YA and 7 were adult. So I thought I'd do 2 videos. So this one is going to be my YA books that I read in June. So the last 7 YA books that I read, and there's some real winners in here. So keep on watching. First up is a book that's actually probably one of my favorites of the year, and it really surprised me because as much as I adore this series, I always just think they're fun. They're not ones that stick with me, but Pumpkin by Julie Murphy, the 3rd book in the Dumpling series, this is incredible. It's so heartwarming and sweet. Waylon, our main character, is very memorable, very authentic. I really loved the romance in here. It felt very real, and the conflicts in the romance. There was some miscommunication, but it just felt, as I said, very authentic. There's just something so honest about this book. I loved Waylon's relationship with his sister and his sister's girlfriend. If you could tell me a book is centered around prom or homecoming or something like that, I'm going to want to read it. And there's just so much great representation in here. It's just a really fun, beautiful book. And you don't have to read the other books in the series to appreciate this one, though those characters do make an appearance. But if you want to skip those, I still think reading Pumpkin is a great idea. And I love the tagline here. It says, "This year prom's a drag." So that is the first YA book that I read in June and a favorite of the year for sure. And then I read one that has been on my TBR for a long time. And I actually put up a poll on Instagram with a few books. And this is the one that everybody wanted me to read. And that is The Bone Witch by Rinch Pecco. And this is like an older YA fantasy. I know that the series is complete, and I'm definitely going to read it because this blew me away. I loved how dark it was. I loved our main character and her forbidden magic and how that is all explained. How she raised her brother from the dead and the connection that forms between them. And I really liked that we go between the past and then the present. So the main character is telling her story, and it's really a setup for the rest of the series. I have a feeling the way this one ends that the books just get better from here. This is really a setup, the build up, and she's gonna be getting some revenge in the next 2 books, and I think that's gonna be brilliant. And I really liked Rinch Pecco's writing. I know she has quite a few other books. Is there one, The Girl in the Well, that I'm gonna be checking out, but first I have to finish this. And I've noticed a lot of the books that I'm reading lately have great taglines. So this one says, "Let me be clear. I never intended to raise my brother from his grave." So that perfectly sums up this book. It's dark, it's atmospheric, it's really fun, great magic, really unique and original story, and I'm hoping to finish the series by the end of the summer. Next is one that I think is going to be hit or miss for people, but I really adored it, and I read it for a buddy read on Instagram, and most people liked it, but not everybody, and that is The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan He. This is one, it's sci-fi, it's very speculative, and the first half of this, you're going to be so confused. You're going to have no idea what's going on, but then it all clicks, and it makes so much sense, and it's just so brilliant. Joan He is a genius, so you just have to stick it out and know and trust the author on this one. And it's actually one that I think would be even more fun rereading it, knowing where the story is going. So we're following these 2 sisters, and they are separated and looking for each other. One lives in a utopian world. Let me show you the end pages. They do a good job of showing this in the book. So the one sister lives in this world where the earth, climate change is really affecting earth. People are dying. So this is in the sky, this world here. And then the other sister is on a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and they're trying to find each other, but it's just so well done. There's some great side characters in here as well. The sisters are wholly different people, and yep, I don't want to say too much more because I'll spoil it, but just trust Joan He on this one. She's incredible. Now this one really took me by surprise. Honestly, this was a cover buy for me. Like, this cover is one of the cutest covers ever. I love the colors, I love the illustration on here. And this is The Darkness Outside Us by Elliot Sheffer. And this is sci-fi, and the cover would lead you to believe that this is just a romance, but it's so much more than that. I actually think the romance is in the background. So if you're picking this up thinking it's going to be about the romance, it's really not. The romance is sweet. There is great banter in here because Ambrose and what's his love interest name? Let me look this up. Kodiak are from two different cultures. There's lots of miscommunication in that way. They speak different languages and they just have different ideas about life and about the mission that they are on. So there's that conflict, but there's some really sweet and swoon-worthy moments in here. I actually teared up near the end of this one, but really the sci-fi element is so strong in here. I loved it. If you read Project Hail Mary by Angie Weir this year, one of my favorite books of the year, I would say this is the YA version of that. And of course there's male to male romance in here, so that's nice. And if you like AI that are morally gray, kind of like Aiden from the Illumini trilogy, you're gonna like this. Is that what it's called? The Illumini, oh, the Illumina Files, isn't that what it's called? Anyways, if you like the AI in that, you're gonna love this because there's a similar kind of character in here, and Ambrose never knows if he can quite trust them and what their motives are. And much like the ones we're meant to find, things are slowly revealed and it all comes together, and it's so well done. Like, I will read more from this author. I was really surprised by just how interesting the plot was in here. So read it for the romance, stay for the actual sci-fi plot line. It's just really well done, and I hope more people pick this one up. And then the last physical YA book that I read was actually an anthology by some of my favorite authors, and this is Blackout, and this is by Danielle Clayton, Tiffany D. Jackson, Nick Stone, Angie Thomas, Ashley Woodfolk, and Nicola Yoon. So that is quite the lineup there. And Tiffany D. Jackson, one of my favorite authors, Ashley Woodfolk, Angie Thomas. I love all these. I've read from all these authors, and this is probably the best YA anthology I have ever read. Every story in here was a hit. So each of these authors has written a story that takes place over a blackout that's happening in New York, and much like a lot of anthologies, they all come together and connect in the end. But some of them are love stories, some of them are about finding yourself and loving yourself. I don't think there was one standout or one weak point in here. They were all brilliant. I will say Angie Thomas's story was incredible, but it's Angie Thomas, and I really liked how Tiffany D. Jackson's story was woven throughout. So her story was called The Long Walk, and we'd get parts of it after one of the other stories by one of the authors, so it kind of connected them all in that way. And yep, just loved it. It says here, even love stories can glow when the lights go out. So if you like New York as a setting, if you love any of these authors, even if you're reluctant to read anthologies or you're not a big short story fan, I think you're gonna like this one because of the way it all comes together, and there's some great characters in here. And then I listened to 2 YA books on audio. So the first one was She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quinlan, and this is my first by her, and I would definitely read more. I thought this was really sweet. There is so much character growth in here. I will say the main character annoyed me at first, but she really works through her issues throughout it, and she recognizes that she can't just get over somebody by dating somebody else right away. So like, there's some really brilliant messages in here, some great moments. I loved her love interest in here. She was actually my favorite character. And fake dating trope. So I like anything around high school and the fake dating trope. I don't know, it's like very To All the Boys I Loved Before, but I actually think I may have preferred this one here. And yeah, just stay for the character growth. If the main character annoys you at first, like she did for me, stick with it. It really is a great message. I had so much fun with it, and it is really amazing on audio. And then the last book that I'm going to talk about today is Darling by Kay Akram. This is my first by her as well, and this is a Peter Pan retelling, but it takes place in modern day in our world. I believe it's in Chicago. I know it's in Chicago. And Peter Pan, oh, it's so good. He's like evil. It's such a great twist on the original story. Peter Pan's never been my favorite story, but I always seem to be drawn to retellings because they really work, and I really liked Wendy in this. The ending was so great. I actually teared up in the epilogue. It's more like a thriller, so if you're going into this one expecting it to be fantasy or whimsical, it's none of that. This is a fast-paced thriller, and it's very confusing because on Goodreads it does say that this is a fantasy, but it is not. The author has come out and said this is not a fantasy, and it's upsetting because people might pick this up expecting a fantasy and then they get a thriller and then they're disappointed, and I don't think that's fair to the author. I'm confused why Goodreads is like that. If Goodreads just lets users put in the genre and everybody just assumes because it's a Peter Pan retelling that it's going to be fantasy, but it's not. Just know that going in. But it's worth it. I had so much fun with it. It's great on audio, and it takes place over the course of one night, and it'll have you turning the pages. I listened, or just at the edge of your seat. You're going to love this one. I highly recommend it, and I want to read more from the author. So there we have it. Those are the 7 books, YA books that I read recently. So I'm going to record my adult one next, so stay tuned for that. I should post that in a couple days. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you like these recent read videos or if you prefer full-on wrap-ups, because I just find the wrap-ups can get a little long. Talking about 14 books in one video can get tedious to talk about and to watch, so just let me know your opinion on that. Let me know if you've read any of these. Thanks for your time. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.